You Booked It, episode 46. Hey, entertainers and performers of the world. I'm your host, Dane Reese, and welcome to You Booked It, where I chat with inspiring entertainers 7 days a week. By digging into their journey, we're going to discover everything you need to do to be a successful entertainer. You know, because training usually skips that part about how to actually make your skills work for you in the real world. Fellow entertainers, my drive here at You Booked It is to share the inspiring and incredible journeys of successful entertainers. We are here to support your journey. So go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join the You Booked It email community where we dig deep into truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you book that next audition, submission, or gig. If you enjoy this free podcast, please show your support and search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app where you can subscribe so you don't miss an episode, leave a rating and review. And to show our appreciation for your, fingers crossed, 5-star rating and review, I will give you a shout out on an upcoming episode. And now, let's do this. Alrighty, let's get started. I am excited to introduce my guest today, Haley Clair. Are you ready for this, Haley?
I am so ready.
Perfect. Haley is an actor, singer, dancer, and voiceover artist currently based in New York City and New Jersey. She received her BFA in musical theater from the Boston Conservatory in 2013 when she moved to New York to pursue a career on Broadway. And while she is still chasing that Broadway dream, Haley has since found success in the worlds of voiceover and music. You have heard her voice in many national commercials for brands such as David's Bridal, Michael's Crafts, Spotify, and she has been the voice of KOHL'S now for over 2 years. Haley sings with an all-female powerhouse a cappella group called Stilletta, who in 2016 were crowned the national champions at the Harmony Sweepstakes and received multiple nominations and awards. Stilletta most recently headlined 2 national music festivals, SoJam in North Carolina and Kettering Festival in Ohio. Haley's favorite theater roles include Velma Kelly from Chicago, Judy from A Chorus Line, Melpomene from Xanadu, Frankenfurter from Rocky Horror, and Peter Pan from Peter Pan. Haley is thrilled to have recently signed with both the legit and voiceover departments at DDO Artists Agency. Haley, that is a quick intro of who you are and what you've done, but why don't you tell us a little bit more about yourself? Fill in the gaps, if you will, who you are, and a little bit more about what you do as a professional in the entertainment industry.
Well, first of all, I have to say thank you for your delivery of that biography. It made it sound so fancy. I feel
My
great about
pleasure.
myself now. But a little bit about me. I grew up in Sonoma, California. I was very lucky to grow up in such a beautiful location. It's
Gorgeous.
also known as wine country, just north of San Francisco. Its neighbor is Napa. It's a much more famous neighbor. While, as you said, my husband and I now live in New Jersey, just a short commute away from New York. We've actually been back in Sonoma for the last few months during quarantine. We've quarantined here with my family. Very grateful to be here to do that. And I guess right now my primary career in the entertainment industry is doing voiceover, as you said, which was a very different direction than I originally had imagined myself going in. I mostly do commercials, but I've also done some industrials and I've had my eye on audiobooks. I've never actually done an audiobook yet, but it's a possibility. And also, one of the oddest jobs I do currently is narrating a medical podcast in the hematology field, which feels like doing linguistic gymnastics every week.
I can only imagine. You're like, what is this word?
I honestly don't know what I'm saying. Most of the time, I just read it and I pronounce it the way they tell me to.
Great.
Um, I also sing with my a cappella group Stilletta, which is totally my happy place. It's such a great group of women and a wonderful opportunity to be able to sing and perform regularly, which to me is just a gift. So that's a little bit about me.
I love it. Well, let's move on to this next section here. And Haley, I am a sucker for a good quote. What is your favorite quote you'd like to share with everyone?
So my favorite quote, which I also have had on my website for a number of years now, is a Martha Graham quote. It is, "No artist is pleased. There is no satisfaction whatsoever at any time. There is only a queer, divine dissatisfaction, a blessed unrest that keeps us marching and makes us more alive than the others."
I have never heard that, and that is outrageously amazing and applicable to I think any artist's life. That's
Isn't
amazing. I
that
love that.
so great?
It really is. It really nails everything on the head. Can you maybe expand on how you've applied that quote to your life and your career?
Absolutely. Most of the time, I remember it basically to remind myself that I'm not crazy. um, but it really just reminds me to keep that spark, that drive inside of me going because it's what makes me alive. I feel like to be an artist is to be alive. It's to feel your feelings and feel them hard, and then to share them with the world to remind everyone that we are all actually the same. So I love that quote because I guess it just reminds me that there is no such thing as perfect. There's no such thing as done. We are always learning, we're always growing, and always obligated to share that with everyone. And it's just that sort of percolating feeling that keeps us going and keeps me going to remind me that I can never stop. I can never just quit.
I love that, and I could not agree more. Well, let's move to this next section. And of course, Haley, you are an entertainer. I'm an entertainer. And I think you'd agree that this industry is one of the most subjective, brutally honest, personally emotional industries either of us have ever experienced.
Correct.
And you know, as well as I, that in order to create and have a successful career in this industry like you're having now takes a lot of dedication and hard work. And while, yes, of course, there are those big peaks in our careers and those fun and exciting moments, there are also our fair share of obstacles and challenges and failures we are going to experience, and we have to learn how to move forward through them. So tell us, what is one key challenge, obstacle, or failure you've experienced in your career, and how did you come out the other side better because of it?
Well, let's talk about the last 7 years, shall we? No, I would say I was thinking about this a lot, and I feel like my biggest challenge has been comparing myself to other people, to my peers, and their success timelines, specifically as it applies to the theater world. For the last 7 years, I've lived, either in or very near New York, hustling that good New York hustle and struggling that non-ex struggle.
Hmm.
Waking up at 4 a.m. to line up for open calls during audition season, spending thousands of dollars on classes and seminars, trying to meet casting directors. And for a large chunk of that time since I moved to New York, I just absolutely tortured myself about my perceived lack of success. And every single time I heard or saw a post of a friend or a former classmate who booked another Broadway show or a tour, or someone got an agent, or somebody finally got their equity card, and I spent years totally consumed with jealousy and feeling like a total failure because I hadn't and could not book a theater job in New York from any of the hundreds of auditions that I had gone out on. It felt like, you know, New York didn't like me. It felt impossible to get an agent. Everybody told me, "Oh my God, you're so great. You're so talented. And we have 100 girls who look exactly like you." Just the repetitive stress of getting myself up, getting my hopes up for each and every audition, even, getting some callbacks and feeling really good about what I did in the room, and repeatedly over and over and over not booking. And then seeing many other people having theatrical success. What even some of my very closest friends have had a lot of theater success. And that was a huge challenge because Broadway is and always was the number one dream. It was the pinnacle of my goals. And something that sort of, I guess, changed for me that had me kind of come out on the other side was one night at an alumni event for my school, for the Boston Conservatory. I was chatting with a former classmate of mine who is arguably the most successful person to have graduated maybe in the last 10 years. He's had multiple Broadway credits. He's been in several original Broadway casts, and now he is in a starring role on Broadway. Um, and I was chatting with him and just catching up, and he said something along the lines of, "Oh, you have the perfect life. You're married, you have that Jersey picket fence life, and you're nailing it with voiceover. Like, oh my God, your life is perfect." And I just wanted to turn around and scream at him, like my jaw dropped, and I wanted to just yell, "You're on Broadway!" Like, what are you
Yeah.
talking about? And I think that in and of itself was sort of an aha moment for me because it made me realize that success is totally about perspective. And while someone else has an aspect of success that I want, I have successes in my life that they want. And it made me start to look at just being grateful for what I have versus jealous of what I don't have. And very much, glass half full as opposed to empty. That it sort of blew my mind that this person who I perceived to have it made, they made it, they did it, and I haven't yet. But he pointed out all of the aspects of my life that he was jealous of almost. And I was just like, what? Oh my gosh, how could someone like that be jealous of me?
Yeah.
And that really kind of turned my belief system about that on its head. And I've felt really good and worked really hard to just be grateful for what I have and appreciate the successes in the areas of life that I have.
I love that. And I think so many of us can relate to going down that Instagram rabbit hole where ultimately we just feel awful about ourselves. And I think us as humans have this really fantastic subconscious knack for finding the stuff that doesn't make us feel good. And it's good to recognize that's happening sometimes and to try to put a stopper on it because like you said and what you've realized is that success is all about perception and your success is not someone else's success. Everyone has their own version and that's okay. And to also, like you said, enjoy the things that you do have and really relish in those because what can also end up happening, I think, is you're doing these things that other people perceive as successful that really is really cool and really successful. Maybe not your initial idea of what success was, but it's good and it is still success. But it's easy to not even pay attention to those moments and then lose that time in your life in a way because you you were focused on what you didn't have instead of really relishing and loving what it is that you're doing currently.
Yes, I couldn't have said it better myself. And there were so many times where, for a long time, I kind of blew off my voiceover stuff as just like, oh, this is just something I do on the side. I dabble in
Yeah.
this thing. And then I realized I was making a, legit annual income doing this thing. And I was booking all the time and I was getting lots of auditions and I was feeling really good about that. And finally, I want to say, over a year after I had been successfully doing voiceover, I finally decided to start calling myself a voiceover artist, a voice actor,
Right.
and owning that as my legit thing.
Yeah, I love that. Well, let's move on to this next section to a time that I like to call your spotlight moment. That one moment in time you realized, yes, I am going to be an entertainer for a living. Or maybe it was, yes, this is what I need to be doing as an entertainer. Tell us about that.
Absolutely. It's definitely the latter question that you asked. What do I need to be doing as an entertainer more so? Because there has literally never been a single time in my entire life, even as a toddler, when I didn't absolutely know that I was born to do this, and this was the only thing I could ever possibly do. I was that sort of weird unicorn in high school. Everyone was trying to figure out where they might go to college and what they might major in. And I was just like, nope, done. I got that figured out.
Yeah, right.
But my biggest spotlight moment, more of a turning point, if you will, was when I booked my first professional job in a chorus line directed by Kay Cole, who was the original Maggie on Broadway. And I was 16 years old, and I had to jump through all of these hoops to get independent study so I could leave school for 6 weeks and go be a part of this production that I had just booked. And it was such a profound experience, not only to be able to learn from professional actors who were twice my age, but to have someone like Kay on that level believe in me and say, yes, you can do this for real. You can swim in the big pond with the big fish, and to feel accepted and respected by other professionals for the first time. I mean, I was still basically a kid at 16. That was like, oh my God, it was like tasting the forbidden fruit. And I was ruined from that point on. There was absolutely no going back. I had to go back to high school after that when the production was over. And I dove right back into the halfway point, I think, in rehearsals for another show with the sort of children's community theater company that I worked with at the time. And I went straight back to rehearsals for that, coming off of this totally professional, equity run production. And I was just like, what am I doing with my life? I need to I need to go and be doing that now.
Yeah. I love that. Well, let's piggyback on that question and let's talk about your number one booked it moment. Walk us through that day, the auditions and callbacks, if they happen to be part of it. What was going on in your life, and what about that moment makes it your favorite booked it moment?
So it's interesting because I'm really going with favorite here, not the most professional, not the highest success or anything like that. I'm truly going with
Absolutely.
favorite. Um I could actually talk about booking a chorus line because that was also really monumental, but since I've already talked about that a little bit, I actually want to take it back even earlier, to when I did Peter Pan. And I was 13 years old, and it was the first time I booked. Well, booked is, relative because again, I was a kid. Um, but it was the first time I was given a lead role. And the way that this company sort of operated, they took anybody and everybody who wanted to be in the production. And we spent the first few weeks learning ensemble numbers, and they would go through and sing each person individually on a song. And then, a few weeks into the rehearsal process, they would sit everybody down and read through the cast list out loud, and announce the cast. And I was, kind of gunning for some kind of, smaller role. Maybe I could be Tiger Lily. Maybe I could be, maybe even Wendy. That would be huge. And I will never forget sitting there, and they read through the whole list, and they got to Tiger Lily, and I kind of held my breath, and they read through all the girls who they were casting because it was, double or triple cast. And no, okay, maybe Wendy, maybe I finally got Wendy. That would be so exciting. And they read through all of Wendy, and my name wasn't listed. And I was just like, oh my God, like, uh, did I just not get cast? Like, did I not
Yeah.
get anything? Oh my God. How sad. And then the last role they read was Peter Pan. And I heard my name and literally screamed, like out loud, shrieked, and like burst into tears, because I had never had a lead role before. And again, similar to what I explained with a chorus line, it was the first time I felt like somebody actually trusted me to carry something important. And oh my God, I was so excited. I was off book in 3 days.
Yeah, of course. That's amazing.
But I just, to this day, I don't think I've ever been so excited for being cast in a role. Even though, like I said, it was, children's theater. in the large scheme of things, probably small pick and small pond, but like it was so much fun. And to this day, it's probably some of the most fun I've ever had on stage. So that was just a really special experience.
I love that. And there's no way you could possibly take away from that experience because I would venture to say or guess that because of that experience, it gave you so much confidence and validation to really continue and pursue this career that you're in now.
100%. Absolutely. Yes. If I hadn't had that foundational experience with this theater company, which I did lots of theater with going forward from then on, it was just every production, whatever they did, I was there. And so that definitely gave me the confidence and I was so hooked. I was 100% hooked. There was, like I said, nothing else I ever dreamed I could ever do basically from that point on.
I love that. Well, let's take a moment to talk about the present. What projects are you working on now, and what are you looking forward to? And of course, we are amidst this global pandemic. How do you see the entertainment industry moving forward in the next couple of years?
Oh gosh, what a loaded question.
I know, I know. Sorry.
um, I mean, obviously, right now with everything that's going on, all of COVID and Corona, and nobody knows, when theater will open and when it does open, what it will look like, how full can the audiences be, how will they have to distance people, will they be able to make enough money to sustain theater at that point? I have no idea. Um, but just right now in the present, in quarantine, I'm super grateful because I'm still able to record and do my voiceover work from my home studio. So I'm still submitting lots of auditions and I'm very happy to have my regular clients who have been wonderfully flexible throughout the whole, pandemic. And looking forward, like I said, I have no idea what the industry will look like, but I actually think I may take this opportunity to maybe change directions slightly. I've been considering for a while making a move towards film and TV. So I'm kind of looking forward to the opportunity to reevaluate and possibly start more in that direction, especially because I think TV and film will likely be able to start shooting and pick up production earlier than theater will be able to. Um, so I'm also excited to, I don't know, finally get to work with my new agent at DDO. I signed with them right before all of this went down. And while I've actually worked very closely with the VO agents, they submit me for auditions frequently, and I'm able to record those auditions and send them off and record work and send that off from home in my home studio. But I'm really excited to finally get to work with my new legit agent, which like I said, as we kind of talked about, the last 7 years have been quite a struggle. And I finally got an agent, which was such a huge moment of excitement for me. And I love her. I absolutely adore Irene, who is the legit agent at DDO. And I'm really excited to kind of finally be able to pick up steam and get to work with her in the legit department when things open up again and when theater starts to reshape itself.
Fantastic. And now it is time to move on to one of my favorite sections in the interview. I call it the Grease Lightning Round. I am going to ask you a handful of questions. I want you to answer them as quickly and concisely as possible, one after another. Are you ready?
Here we go. Let's do it.
All right, first question. What was the one thing holding you back from committing to a career as an entertainer?
Nothing ever. I was committed since birth.
Great. Second question. What is the best piece of advice you have ever received?
Practice gratitude every single day and never wear a nub, minimum 2-inch heels or higher.
Love it. Third question. What is something that is working for you now? Or if you'd like to go pre COVID, what was working for you before our industry went on pause?
Honestly, what's working for me now is self care and letting go of trying to control everything. The tighter you hold on and the harder you push, the less life and your career goes your way, especially right now when the world is trying to turn upside down and sideways and do somersaults all at the same time. Releasing control and and really relishing in self-care and nourishing myself as a human being first, and then a professional second.
I could not agree more. It is such good advice to not try to be resistant to anything that comes up because, like you said way in the beginning of this interview, that your journey, your versions of success kind of evolve and get created over time. And it's letting things go with the flow and see where life leads you is where all the fun stuff happens.
Totally.
Great. And the fourth question: what is the best resource, whether that is a book, a movie, a YouTube video, a podcast, maybe it's a piece of technology that you found is helping your career right now?
So it's a book. And the book that I am reading is You Are a Badass at Making Money by Jen Sincero. And it is blowing my mind and totally changing how I look at the hustle, how I look at my relationship to money, and the success in my career that can bring that money to me.
I love it. And that, believe it or not, that book has come up multiple times
Has it
with different
really?
people. It sure has. I think I need to get it.
It's so good. It's so good. And she is so I love her writing style. It's so dry. It's not all like wooey and hippy dippy. It's just so direct. It's so blunt. And it's written in a very kind of millennial style. So it's very accessible and I just adore it. And it's totally rocking my world and changing my life.
Fantastic. I love it. And the fifth question: if you had to start your career from scratch, but you still had all the knowledge and experience you've collected from your career in this industry, what would you do or not do? Would you do anything differently or would you keep it the same?
I think I would do everything almost exactly the same. And if you had asked me that question literally like maybe a month ago, I would have said
Yeah,
something else. But I think I would have done everything almost exactly the same, except I would have treated myself and my body more kindly, specifically my body. I've been very hard on myself about that. And I would have stopped comparing myself to other people a lot sooner. But I genuinely think that everything happens the way it's supposed to and at the time it's supposed to for each and every person.
absolutely. I love that insight and that advice for anybody listening, especially if you are coming into this industry. Such good knowledge. And the last question: what is the golden nugget knowledge drop you have learned from your successful career in the industry that you'd like to leave with everyone?
Well, it's becoming kind of a theme of this interview, I think, but your career will not look the way you think it will look. And there is absolutely no prescribed way to get where you want to be. I'm pretty sure people did try to tell me that at some point, but I was very stubborn and probably too stubborn to believe them at the time. And now I'm so surprised and I'm so pleased at where I've wound up so far, even though I never saw any of that coming. And my career has taken such a different direction than I ever possibly imagined. And I literally wouldn't have it any other way.
I love that. And I love that you mentioned a little side note saying, someone probably told me that, when I was going to school and learning all these things and entering the industry. But this is one of those things that I'm loving about this podcast and interviewing people because I'm interviewing so many different people from so many different aspects of the entertainment industry. And these themes are continually coming up. And I think that's really worth noting. Of course, it's easier said than done sometimes. And of course, everyone thinks, I got to do it my way. I got to do it my way. And yes, while you do, there's so much to be learned from people that have already done it, that have already experienced things, that have already, you know, crashed and burned on a few things. And that's totally fine. But they still found their passions and what they're really meant to do. And there's so much to be learned from that bit of advice.
Well, thank you. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And it's just such a ride. It's such a roller coaster. And God, I feel like I'm just speaking in cliches now, but like, am I on Broadway yet? No. Have I booked a musical theater job in the last few years? One. Um, so But I love my voiceover career. I love singing with my a cappella group. I love where I'm at in my marriage and in my life. And I genuinely like thought when I was younger that I was gonna go to school, I was gonna get my degree in musical theater, I was gonna move to New York, and by the time I was 25, I was gonna have my Broadway debut, and then I had it all planned out, and I gripped onto that vision for dear life, and it wasn't until I kind of realized that my life had taken this different direction and started to appreciate that direction that I was able to actually find pride and joy in my life and in my career.
Absolutely. And I think you've been so successful. It's amazing. Love it.
Thank you.
And to wrap up this interview, it is time to give yourself a plug. Where can we find you? How do our listeners connect with you? Is there anything you want to promote?
Totally. As always, we are performers and we absolutely love to plug ourselves. Uh, so you can find me on Instagram at Haley.Clair. That's HALEY.CLAIR. I also just joined TikTok. I'm like trying to get with the cool kids. My TikTok handle is the same as my Instagram handle. I've posted one video and I'm going to work on that. I also have a website, haleyclair.com. And then also my group Stilletta, my all-female a cappella group. We have our debut self-titled album out now on all streaming platforms, Spotify, iTunes, Amazon, anywhere you find music, it's there. And you can also find some info on Stilletta at our website, stilletta.net. That's STILETTA.net. Or any of our social media handles are at Stilletta NYC. So feel free to go stock some videos and check us out there.
Perfect. Haley, thank you so much for your time and for joining me on this interview today. It has been an absolute pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much, Dane. This has been really fun for me too. And I'm very grateful that you're doing this for everyone.
Thank you so much for joining us today. My one call to action for you is to go to youbookeditpodcast.com and join our free email community, where we dig deep into a continually growing resource of truly actionable things you can be doing right now to help you advance your entertainment career. Don't miss an episode. We have a new guest 7 days a week. Search for You Booked It on Apple Podcast or your favorite podcast app and subscribe today. All the best to you. We'll see you tomorrow.